This is a story in 3 parts. In part 1, we're going to talk about comfort and its importance. Part 2 will be the empirical context. And part 3, well, I wouldn't want to give that away just yet. So let's begin. So part 1. This PhD is about comfort. It is a study of thermal comfort of groups. Thermal comfort has been extensively studied, and if you've read enough of the literature, you'll come across trends. The first trend is perpetuated by academic and engineers alike, who attempt to reduce comfort to quantifiable measures. And the second are those who state that comfort is inherently subjective and socially defined. With the former, you can't shake the feeling that humans should be spherical, identical, and inhabit a more uniform environment, say a vacuum. Given a statement like that, I think it's quite clear that I'm the other school of thought. But this drive for quantifiable comfort has informed professional institutions and organisations alike, frequently being written into design standards and specifications respectively, which is unfortunate because the reality for the majority of occupants in offices is that comfort is an inherently social issue defined by arguing, bickering, moaning, and even subterfuge. A social dynamic driven by technological issue, how comfort is driven by systems and zoning, particularly those within open plan offices, as there's been a design trend of increasing office population densities in the UK, perpetuated by organisations seeking a better return on investment, which has had a negative effect on comfort. So understanding the social dynamic of comfort is an important topic so we can design better, more comfortable offices. So part 2. We are briefly going to talk about a journey this year and touch on the subject of why I'm clearly wearing pyjamas whilst trying to look smart. So on the journey, this year we're set to examine the social dynamics of comfort in offices using methodology of comparative case alongside focus groups for data collection. The idea being that each instance of environmental zoning group within an office space allows for the formation of a case focus group. These focus groups being analogous to the inherent group dynamics within. Then using comparative method, generate a general account of first the office, then going up through the organisational levels, depending on the structuration, until eventually you're comparing an organisation with another organisation through truth tables. But upon reaching the point where an organisation has been examined at higher organisational levels, more esoteric social dynamics beyond simple organisational dynamics such as policies or group dynamics, such as the ones discussed under technology, could be broached. Concepts such as identities, cultures, values and norms. Then this year, a global pandemic occurred, a large issue to everyone worldwide, but also an upheaval of prior norms. I mentioned the pyjamas. Even within the relatively informal organisation that is UE,
dressed as I am at the moment, would still be arguably inappropriate within this context. So, even dressed as I am in this garment, which is fine within the virtual organisation, fine within the home office environment and completely fair game in the new norm, within this context again, within the lecture theatre, this is still inappropriate. Ironically, a new norm has actually developed within this context as well, as defined by COVID in the form of face coverings, which are an organisational policy and a new norm that has changed the way that we view certain things.
This upheaval had an impact on the thing I was studying in 2 ways. Firstly, the old design norm of increasing occupant density got kicked out of the door by the fundamentally correct need for social distancing, or even at the point where it feels a bit uncomfortable now to look at lots of people in social gatherings. Secondly, my methodology of generating cases by intensely collecting together groups into focus groups as they would sit in an office space was now both fundamentally impossible as well as a bit nonsensical. So, Act 3, and returning to the proverbial drawing board. Here we're going to talk about the future, what is planned, how it's going to happen. So there was this issue of COVID. A new methodology reflects this. Again, a comparative case study approach will be adopted. Instead of focus groups, however, the narrative of semi-structured interviews will be used, incorporating the empirical context of the pyjama-appropriate home offices alongside their formal office counterparts. True, the home office is not likely to see the same social dynamics or population densities as commercial offices, but they are now intrinsically part of the world of work in the UK and are subject to their own family, group, and even organisational dynamics. The narratives are unfortunately a more time-consuming method of building out truth tables of an organisation, but they are also richer in detail than focus groups and reflect the uniqueness of each individual's home office environment. The timeline for this study is as follows. However, a key portion of this timeline is based on the assumption, although well grounded in organisational science and methodological literature, that more esoteric factors can firstly be observed using this methodology, and they can be observed as changing across organisational levels, whether that be separate departments or entire organisations. So mentioned in Act 2 that focus groups would have facilitated this function. Now it remains to be seen if narratives collected remotely can do the same. To ascertain this key bit of knowledge, a pilot is due to start in the next 2 weeks, which will run for 4 weeks, 2 weeks data collection and 2 weeks thematic analysis, and a write-up using a combination of NVivo, Otter, and plenty of cups of coffee. I look forward to being able to report on that next year. Thank you all very much for listening to this presentation. I hope you've enjoyed the format. And if there are any questions, I'll take them now.